Hello, welcome to my one-stop desktop reading tour for my new novel, The Diminishment of Charlie Cain. I'm going to read a section close to the beginning of the book. The only thing you need to know before this is that Charlie Cain has a pain in his side, doesn't have the money to go to a respectable real doctor, so he's given the name of a man whose office is in a sketchy part of town, and this is when Charlie arrives at the office. She showed Charlie to what was a sort of waiting room. He was amazed at the warm comfort of the place, as if he'd stepped off Skid Row into the Ritz. The dark plush furniture was handsome, vintage but in excellent condition. The mantel above the large fireplace, in which a cheerful blaze was crackling, looked as if it had been carved for the Knights of the Round Table. The lighting was dim, principally emanating from an ancient crystal chandelier, in whose center winked the eyes of elves and fays. "He's expecting you," the young girl said behind Charlie's back, startling him. "Oh, thank you." "Through that door," she said, and she smiled. It was as if light had come from a stone. Again, Charlie thought, what a beautiful child. Dr. Raphael's office was more of the same: dark, luxurious furniture, oak bookcases full of esoteric texts, medical manuals, and novels. Heavy drapes and low illumination gave Charlie the impression he had stepped back in time. This was a set from a 1940s Warner Brothers melodrama. And Dr. Raphael completed the picture. Instead of a white coat, he wore a smart suit of dark blue with light pinstripes and a collarless black silk undershirt. He had the salt and pepper beard of the older Freud. "That's Annie," Dr. Raphael said, extending a hand. Charlie shook the doctor's hand, which was soft and cold. "I'd be lost without Annie. Wise beyond her years, she is." "Is Annie your daughter?" Dr. Raphael looked over his horn rims. "I'm told you're having a lower back pain." "Yes," Charlie said, and he reached around to place his hand over the tender spot. "I see." "I'm a little flummoxed. Who made the appointment for me?" "Don't worry about it. Why don't you sit on the table there? Brush that cat off." A beautiful brindle-colored cat, somewhere between the size of a house cat and a bobcat, looked at Charlie with dancing blue eyes. Charlie didn't want to try and move it. The cat reluctantly hopped down and disappeared under the desk. The table was a simple table, again of brunette wood. No white paper, and no medical instruments anywhere in sight. Nevertheless, Charlie took his place on it. Dr. Raphael came forward and took Charlie's hand. "Just relax," he said. Dr. Raphael pulled down each of Charlie's eyelids, gave them a good look. He pulled on his ears, and as he did, he sniffed each one. "Open your mouth, please." Now the doctor grabbed Charlie's tongue and held it firm between two fingers. The good doctor said, leaning over to smell Charlie's breath. Charlie didn't know if he was meant to repeat, but he said, "Fart much?" the good doctor said. "Excuse me?" "Sorry," he let go of Charlie's tongue. "I asked if you fart much." I don't know how much is much. I fart after eating, sometimes on an empty stomach." Dr. Raphael nodded, seemed to be thinking. "Let me see your hands." Charlie held out his splayed fingers. The doctor pulled each finger. A couple of them cracked. He put his face up to the half moons on each fingernail. "Uh-huh," he said. "Do you want me to take my shirt off?" Charlie asked. He was feeling slightly panicky. No, thank you." Dr. Raphael returned to his desk and sat down. He thought for a moment. "Much sex?" Charlie hesitated. "No, not right now." "But recently?" "I had a girlfriend. I don't have her anymore." Masturbate? Of course. Good, good. The doctor thought for a minute. Here's what I want you to do. Start taking these every morning with your breakfast. Probably best if you take one only and eat something with it until we see what they will do. Dr. Raphael scribbled a note on a small pad of paper, at the top of which was the logo and name of Red Ryder Industries. Charlie looked at the note. It said something like butanazole. That's all? For now, I think yes. Thanks for coming in. Dr. Raphael sat and smiled. It was Charlie's move. He stood up. Okay, thank you, Dr. Raphael. Charlie backed out the door. Close that, would you? The doctor asked. Charlie did, and he looked around the outer room again. Annie was nowhere to be seen. The room was as quiet as a statue. Charlie shook his head as if he'd awakened from a strange dream. He was pleased his car was still there, and apparently unmolested. It was 9:30 in the morning, so he drove straight to Walgreens. He waited as usual in the line at the pharmacy. Walgreens always had a line, and when you reached your destination, there was a surly pharmacist wondering why you were bothering them. After about 15 minutes, Charlie reached the pharmacist, who was a young black woman as pretty as Halle Berry. She curled her lip. Charlie handed her the piece of paper. What is this? The surly Halle Berry said. My prescription. Next, she said, pushing Charlie's paper back toward him. Wait, I just got this from Dr. Raphael. I assume you have drugs here. Halle Berry gave him the look she saved for dogs that pee on the carpet. Buddy, nice try. You can't scribble a drug on a piece of paper and expect us to give it to you. Listen, I swear this is what he gave me. I know it looks odd, but he's a real doctor. Charlie suddenly didn't know why he believed this. The pharmacist looked at the note again. She beckoned one of her mates over. The new guy had a face like a dropped cake. What's that? I don't know. What does it even say? I think it says butanazole. Charlie's voice petered off. He was losing hope. Get out of here, the guy said. Next, Halle Berry said. Charlie stepped on the foot of the person behind him. The foot was wrapped in a bloody bandage. With an apology thrown over his shoulder, he stumbled toward the door. He was shaking by the time he got back behind the wheel of his antediluvian Volvo, and he had to gather himself before he started back for Dr. Raphael's office. He parked and sprinted for the door, the note clasped in his sweaty hand. He pounded on the door. There you are, Annie said, opening the door. She was dressed in an absurd ball gown and tiara. Where's the doctor? Charlie burst in. He's out, Annie said, quietly closing the door. Of course he is. What kind of outfit are you running here? I don't understand your question. You ran off without paying this morning. Charlie realized then that he had. He felt embarrassed, and he paused to catch his breath. I'm sorry, he said, but that doesn't make any difference because this prescription is a fraud. I assure you it is not, Annie said. Charlie had the odd feeling that Annie belonged at the Mad Hatter's tea party. She sat down and crossed her thin legs. I took it to Walgreens and they said... Annie raised her palm and cut Charlie off. Walgreens is for the others. You've been sent here because your cure cannot be found at Walgreens. Sent here? I'm all muddled. I can see that you are. If you had not bolted this morning, we could have taken care of everything right here. I came out of the office and you were gone. Naturally, I thought, I understand what you thought. You have no patience, impatient patient. I was in the lavatory, and had you waited a moment, I would have taken your payment and given you the nostrum the doctor prescribed. I'm sorry, I didn't understand how things work here. This is a very unconventional office for unconventional cures. Why do I need an unconventional cure? I only have this pain in my lower right quadrant. Is that really all that's bothering you, Charlie? She spoke his name as if they had grown up together. She looked at him with gentle appraisal, as if she could peer into his pneuma. What do you mean? Are you happy, Charlie? I don't see. Are you in love, Charlie? Are you satisfied with your life currently? Well, no. There are you. Where am I? Right here with us, where you belong. Now, if you'll just pay, I will take the doctor's note and retrieve your medicine. I have no insurance. Neither do we, and she simpered, nor do we take it. Cash only. I don't have much cash. How much is it? Let me have the note. Charlie handed her the wadded, redded note. I think I can make this out, of course. That will be $10. $10? That's correct. Annie uncrossed her legs and recrossed them the other way. This seems so... I know. $10, and I fetch your meds. Charlie opened his wallet and took out 2 5s and laid them softly on the desk. Okay, Annie said. She stood and left the room. Charlie waited. Here we go, Annie said, returning with a small umber vial with a black squeeze bulb top. Drops? That's right. 1 under the tongue with breakfast, 1 with lunch, 1 with dinner. And then what? Well, if one day's dosage works, huzzah! Andy raised both arms like a cheerleader after a score. I see. Okay. Thank you, Charlie Cain. Thank you, Annie. Now, Charlie's drug that he's given has a wee bit of a side effect, one unforeseen. It makes Charlie invisible. But to hear the rest of that story, you will need to buy the book. Thank you for listening.